Coach Eric Mangini. Coach, thanks for being here with us.
Good
we
morning.
appreciate it.
Good to see everybody.
Nice long week here with us.
Nice. Must be all that juice I've been.
Probably because no one shook his head. No one's getting you sick like Nick kept shaking your hand and
very nice of you. Very
spreading
thoughtful.
germs. All right. Well, yesterday, Eagles head coach Doug Peterson said it's a blessing to have a Super Bowl MVP as your backup. Usually, after winning the Super Bowl, a quarterback should feel his future with the team is secure. However, Nick Foles is in a unique situation with Carson Wentz entrenched as the franchise quarterback. Coach, what should the Eagles do with Foles?
At this point, they should do nothing with Foles. He did something that was really hard to do, not only coming in and being able to manage the game, but also put them in position to win the game. And typically, you see those backup quarterbacks come in late in the season and things collapse. You saw it last year with the Raiders. You saw it with the Dolphins. You saw it even this year with Green Bay. So that's one element. And then you've got Carson Wentz's injury. You really don't know how that's going to respond and how quickly he's going to be available. And you go to Andrew Luck, where they thought he was going to be available. At one point, he ends up missing the whole season. So you've got a guy that's proven, and he's in a good position from a salary cap standpoint. Now, that being said, Bill Polian talked this week about if someone gives up 2 1s and 2 2s, if the deal becomes if someone gives you something ridiculous, you've got to take it and you got to move on from them.
So I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I had a miserable experience post-playing career trying to be a day trader. But I learned one thing. When you're trading stocks, you buy low and you sell high. And I feel like the value of Nick Foles will never be greater than it is right now. And if you have that opportunity, and this comes back to what you were just alluding to, if a team comes up, and I don't even think it has to be crazy, but I think if they give you really solid value, if they have your first-round pick, I think if you're the Eagles, you should move on from Nick Foles. And I think it's tough. It's one of those things where you have to view the players as commodities. And all right, if we can move Nick Foles for this and it can help set us up longer term. And I think it also has to do with you talk to your medical staff, you talk to Carson Wentz, where are you with your rehab? But you've got time on your side. You can do this the entire offseason. And as the free agency pieces of the puzzle fall in place, as the draft takes place, a team might get more desperate where they're saying, uh-oh, we missed out on Josh Rosen, or we missed out on Sam Darnold. Maybe Kirk Cousins went somewhere else. We didn't get him. You might have that opportunity to move Nick Foles, and I think you should take it.
I'm with Coach on this one. I don't think you can right now. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Carson Wentz. Even if he comes back in 9 months, it was 9 to 12 months when he's supposed to be back. 9 months, that's week 2. So you're missing the first game, no question. And if it's somewhere in between that 9 and 12 months, who knows how long you'll be without Wentz. But beyond that, who knows how long it'll take Wentz to return to what he was? Does he play differently because of, the injury? Will it take him maybe a year to get back to the form that he showed last year? I mean, I just think there are too many unknowns. And then if Wentz does come back, and in the first few games, he shows you, okay, he's back to being Carson Wentz. There's no problem. You can always trade Foles during the regular season. I still think his value will be high. People still going to remember what he did in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And maybe even some of these teams will have seen that they don't have the quarterback they thought they had. And maybe his value is even more so in the market. So I wouldn't do anything now unless, like you said, it was just a ridiculous offer you couldn't turn down.
And the other issue with Carson Wentz is even if he comes back and he's completely healthy, last year, he got hit almost as high as anybody had in straight drop-back passes. He's the type of guy that is willing to take hits, to complete balls that really he should either be throwing away and not risking that type of injury. So there's a good probability that he's going to be down again at some point, even if he comes back and he's fully healthy, and that's a problem.
Let me ask something from a coach's perspective, because we all know fan bases, and Philly, probably not the most rational, which describes a lot of fan bases. But are you concerned at all that if Carson Wentz comes back and starts week 1 and they go 2-2 and he's doing okay, that the media, the fans, that they're all of a sudden building pressure, and Carson Wentz is clearly the future of Philadelphia, that it could potentially undermine his status in that organization if there's a strong movement to say, hey, Foles was the MVP in the Super Bowl. That guy was perfect. We need to bench our young guy who's the future of our franchise. Does that come into the thought process?
Well, the most popular person on any team is the backup quarterback. Everybody always thinks that he's going to be a better answer. And I do think there's value in having competition in every room. We talk about it from a coaching perspective where you're constantly pushing players to be better. But at the quarterback position, that doesn't really happen very often. So to have a guy like Nick Foles there to help continue to push Carson along, I don't think competition is a bad thing from a developmental perspective.
I think you're saying, though, from the controversy it could create. I mean, even if, let's say, Wentz can't come back until maybe week 5 or 6, and Foles starts out on fire. I mean, I think as much as I think Wentz is the future and a better quarterback overall, that would seem to be a controversy, and rightly so. I mean, if they go 5-0, 4-1, and Foles is playing great, it'd be hard to take him out of there, even for Wentz. And look, it seems like these two are really close. They seem to share the same faith and all that. So maybe it wouldn't be a problem between those two, which maybe would help it. But that could be a big controversy.
But it's always much bigger than that. It's always, because I'm not worried about Foles and Wentz relationship one bit. Like, those guys have been very clear. Wentz was supportive as he was going on and playing. But it would be from the outsider standpoint. And if the entire, if you're starting to face boos. And I know a coach would never admit that that comes into your thought process, but I think it does. At some point, it does impact some of the decisions that are made on the field.
But it's such a high-class problem.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Most teams are trying to get one guy. If you're in a situation where you have two guys that are really good and which one's going to be better, which of your really good quarterbacks are going to be better, you're in a great situation. I'd love to have that situation.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches would. And you brought up something, too, that the best scenario might be to keep them both, let the first half of the season play out until the trade deadline, and much like the Patriots. Now, they didn't get some of the numbers, the 2 first rounds that were, bantered about in the offseason, but they still got a second-round pick, and you could always do that as teams face injuries during the season. A team might lose its starter, so you might even be able to get still some really good value for them in the middle of the regular season.
Well, look at what happened with Sam Bradford. That's a great example of where they got, I think it ended up being a first and a third. And quarterbacks are currency. And as you get to the start of the season, if you're a team that you feel has a chance to compete and your guy goes down, you're going to do whatever it takes to put you back in that position. So you'll trade like Minnesota did for Sam Bradford. And also you're going to get GMs and head coaches who are in a position where if they don't win right now, they're going to get fired. And those guys are willing to make deals at the start of the season that are a lot better than what they'll do right now where you still have the draft.
And you feel like Foles will have no issues at all being in that position? I know publicly he said he understands
I think that's the one area I would love to get inside Nick Foles' head, because he's making a lot of money, $7 million to be a backup, and I get that he got a taste of being the starter, being the guy, but I don't know where that is as far as his importance and his career, where he is right now. Like, if he's saying, hey, I'd love to be in Arizona, I want to be the man out there, I don't know if he values that as much as some young players do. Like, when you hear A.J. McCarron talk, it's very clear he wants to be the guy. And I don't know that with Foles. And it's kind of interesting, because I think you would assume every player wants to be the starter somewhere. But I think you have to take into consideration, he's in a really good quarterback room. He's got a really good coach who believes in him. He's had a lot of success. His family's in Philly. Like, now you're set in Philly for the rest of your life. And I get you can make a lot more money somewhere else, but I don't think money's what drives him.
Normally I would think that's a red flag. I mean, he seems to be completely comfortable, like, hey, I'll be here, I'll be the backup and all that. And I would look at that as he doesn't want it. Like, this is not the guy you want leading your franchise, but he just proved that he could step in and do it. So it's an odd situation.
Yeah, I don't think it's a red flag. When you look at his career, he had that really successful start and high expectations, and then he bounces around to a couple different teams. He gets cut. He's had horrible experiences. He signs as a backup. He now gets this taste again. There's some value to taking a step back, spending another year, getting things in line, and then maybe moving on next year.
Do you have any questions about when he does get, let's say it's next year that he, or 2 seasons from now, he gets that starting role, he's the franchise quarterback somewhere. Do you have questions about how good he'll be?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you have a quarterback who has an extreme amount of production and then it falls off and then it kicks in again, who are you getting? Which quarterback are you getting? How much of a system fit does it have to be? You're looking for consistency over time, and when it peaks and valleys, now you're betting on the upside, but you know that floor is there.
Yeah. Coach, we're not letting you go anywhere. Coming up, why are the Jets backing off of Kirk Cousins? That's next on First Things First.